In today's video, I want to show you the laziest way to scale your e-commerce brand to 7 figures utilizing Facebook ad. The number one transformation I've done the most often now, that is 12 times and counting, is bringing brands from 6 figures to over 7 figures. That's right, we've now brought over 12 businesses from $25,000 to $50,000 a month, all the way up to $100,000 a month and way beyond. And if you're new to the channel, you know who I am. My name is Justin, and I'm the founder at paidadvertising.com, an online e-commerce marketing agency specializing in elevating thriving brands by simplifying e-commerce growth. With that being said, we've had the pleasure of working and consulting with over 160 clients in the last 4 years and have profitably spent over $9.6 million on ads these past 12 months alone. Let's get straight into today's video. As the title says it, the laziest way to scale your e-commerce brand to 7 figures with Facebook ads. So scaling an e-commerce ad account comes down honestly to 3 things and 3 things only. Number one, a consolidated ad account structure. Now, one of our core values at paidadvertising.com has always been KISS, which stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. Okay, this is something that I've actually learned in college a couple of years ago, and it was an acronym used in like the graphic design world, or at least by one of my teachers back then, who was telling us like, hey, don't just like overcomplicate your design for the sake of complicating it. Keep it simple. And it was reiterated later on by a coding professor I've had in college. I was like, guys, don't overcomplicate your code. Always make your code as simple as it can possibly be. And I've tried to use the same thing when it came to advertising now. So when I got into the advertising space 4 years ago, I've always tried to keep this motto alive in our workflows. And I was like, whatever is simple scales. And this is true in an ad account, but it's also true in a business, right? A business that has 6 different product lines with 10 different personas and advertising and, all continents in the world. And it just gets so messy to scale. Whereas a business with 1 persona, 1 core product or service, 1 acquisition channel is much more easily scalable because it's simple. Same thing is true with an ad account. So with that being said, complexity kills scale. And I've had, again, this motto for a very long time, and I'll show you how it applied to an ad account that I'll be sharing with you in today's video. Now, second thing is you need a monastic focus on fundamentally sound ad creatives. Now, one of the core components, I guess, of marketing that we really embody here is consumer psychology, right? There's honestly 3 core components that you can embody as a marketer to really help you kick some ass online, right? It's typically consumer psychology, the unit economics side of things, which actually is going to be my third point, so I'll bring it up right now. And the third one would actually be storytelling, right? So if you think about all the great marketers that you know, so that could be a YouTuber, or it could also be a business owner that you know, typically they have one of those 3 or 2 or more of these 3 components that I mentioned right here down, which not talking about keeping it simple, stupid. This is not a component that I believe is, how can I say, like that it's going to make or break a marketer, although I strongly believe that it is important. What I think the 3 core components of marketing are, it's again, consumer psychology, becoming good with economics, and last but not least, storytelling. So with that being said, the 2 that we really focus on as an agency have always been consumer psychology and the economics side of things. So let me show you how that looks like into practice, okay? This is an ad account that we had in the agency, or actually this is before they came on board. This is right before we took care of this ad account. And honestly, I'm going to make this as big as I can while I'm showing you this on screen. So this is the 2-week period prior to us taking over the ad account. So this was at the start of the summer, okay? They had 40 campaigns up and running, okay? They were spending about $20,000 on a 2-week basis, so give or take about $40,000 a month. They were getting reported back on Facebook $27,000 in purchase conversion value. Keep in mind, this is a digital product business, so margins are quite high. Purchase ROAS on platform was 1.38. And given that this client actually had no other significant traffic channels besides Facebook, attribution was quite linear. We could only look into Shopify to see a direct kind of blended attribution to see total Shopify revenue divided by total ad spend. So if it came down to that now, when we look at it, 40 live ad campaigns, 1.38 platform ROAS, blended ROAS was 1.64. And the biggest red flag this client rose to us when we first came on board are like, guys, the reason I'm quitting working with this previous agency and vendor is because they're just scaling unprofitably, right? I'm paying them purely on a percentage of ad spend. And like right now, they're just scaling without my approval and they're not respecting my KPIs. And like, I just keep getting more and more unprofitable. And you can see that right here. Like they were slowly increasing ad spend on Facebook, and on Shopify, what you see is like a 14% decrease in sales. So more ad spend, less revenue, which makes a hell of a lot less profits, okay? Now, They also had no clear testing and scaling methodology to explain to our client. Our client was baffled. They were like, guys, I used to run my own ads, and I know a thing or two about advertising. And then they were like, when I started working with these guys, they just started building a bunch of campaigns, and I never could get a straight answer from them as to what all of these campaigns would represent. Like, we only have a handful of products or so, and I have 40 campaigns live. I don't know why. That too. Whatever is confusing at low scale definitely is going to get a hell of a lot more confusing at scale. And then finally, one thing that was honestly atrocious to the account's performance was this last point. They were reusing the same ad creatives for over 3 months with no new creative input, meaning they were just coasting on the success of past winning ads. Now, the after looks like this. This is the previous 2 weeks, okay, right before me recording this video. We spent the same thing, $20,000, okay? And that to say, I'm skipping a 3-week period here because we did dip a little bit into ad spend to fix the account. And then we started scaling up again, because the truth is, and one thing I do want to note right here, when it comes to scaling, you cannot scale unprofitably. It does not make sense. So if your ROAS is not where you want it to be and you start scaling, just know that it will inevitably drop. I have never seen ROAS increase as a consequence of scaling. Never. It's not logical. So with that being said, we did a temporarily pull back in July, and in August came about, we started scaling again, and then matched whatever the scale of the account was back in June to have a much healthier scale. Because look at this, 20,000 in spend, 34,000 in revenue platform-wise, 1.67 ROAS on platform, 7 live ad campaigns, right? Look at this, 7 campaigns, whereas again, we had 40 campaigns live in the 2-week period prior to us coming on board. So from 40 all the way down to 7, 2.23 blended ROAS if it came to looking into Shopify revenue. And again, Facebook is the only and main acquisition channel for this client. Scaling profitably. Well, now, yes, we've increased to back up the ad spend, but revenue also proportionally increased in this case. Going back to earlier, $33,000 in total Shopify sales and $27,000 in Facebook reported sales for $20,000 in ad spend. And that was $20,200. Now we're at $20,900. So give or take $700 more on a 2-week period of ad spend. So slightly more scale than what the account was before. And now you go back here, and it's for the same 20 grand in ad spend, 34,000 reported revenue, which is literally more than what the entire Shopify was on the prior period. And then again, going back to after in itself, and I don't know why this is before, by the way. This might be confusing a little bit if you're watching this, so let me change that to after. $46,000 in Shopify revenue. Now, when it came down to consolidating the account, we simply went with a simple rule of 1 campaign per product. That's it. The customer actually has 5 core products. You see 7 campaigns, but if I go back right here, 2 of them are turned off. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 campaigns live. They're all about the core product lines that this client has, okay? So 1 campaign per product only. That's it. We're doing testing and scaling in the same campaign. We're using a very simple CBO structure, using dynamic creative testing, and we're simply keeping our dynamic creative ad sets that are winning live, and the ones that are not working, we kill them. And then if the overall campaign is doing good, when you factor in the weighted ad spend, distributed across the winning ads and the tested ads within the same campaign, right? If you look at the total campaign ROAS and it's profitable, we're going to scale up the budget by 20 to max 40% on a day-to-day basis, okay? Now, other last point, very important. 80% of the account is brand new ad creatives, because that, again, was a big problem with this account before us coming on board. It was all recycled ads. Now, how, right? Going back to our 3 points from earlier, how did we implement them? Well, honestly, the first one, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I've already detailed it. It's very simple. Just keep your campaign structure as simple as possible. We use broad targeting. We only limit it to demographics, so age, gender, location. That's it. We use 1 campaign per product. Again, that's it. Whereas before, I am telling you, I could show you a zoomed in version of the account, but not only was it 40 campaigns, we saw lookalikes, interest stacks, and then there was broad, and then there was Advantage Plus in some of the campaigns, and then it was turned off in other of the campaigns. And basically all they did for the 3 to 4 months that they work with this client is no creative work, purely media buying tricks and tactics and tweaks. So they focused on the back end, which is basically like tweaking the campaigns instead of focusing on the front end, which is what the customer sees, the creative. And that being said, that costed them, because it might work great for a couple of weeks, but at some point, you're left with, again, creative fatigue. And to another extent, it's like you're giving so many restrictions to the algorithm that it's like, I'll give you the best example, right? It's like driving a car, not only in manual, but let's just say there's no engine on it and you literally have like your feet are touching the floor, and you not only have to like kick your feet up like in the Flintstones, right? And you have the shift with the shifter at the same time. It's like, look, that's why there's automatic cars now. Like they can do all of that for you. Driving is a hell of a lot easier if you implement automatic driving. It's the same thing when it comes to ads. It's like automatic advertising is there when it comes to targeting. What is still manual, in my opinion, is those last 2 points. Fundamentally sound ad creatives. What does that mean? I'll show you in a second. Then knowing your numbers, or being an econometrician, or knowing your unit economics. I'll show you that too in a second. So ad concepts, whenever it comes to creating ad concepts for a new client, we'll typically identify an avatar, and then we'll build out a sheet that looks a little like this. Okay, so let me make that a little bit bigger for you to see better on screen. Every single ad that we test for a client, we'll label on our end, like what is the product that this ad was advertised for? What is the top mass market desire of this ad? Like, in other words, like what is the main point of this ad? Who are we speaking to and what are we speaking to them about? Awareness level, the positioning of this ad, right? Are we talking to a top, moth, or boff audience just based on the messaging of the ad? Then how sophisticated the market is, which that's usually a constant more than a variable itself. Then finally, we'll write down, which you don't see here because some of the columns are hidden, but you would have copy and headline also right here. And then we end up with an ad result. So what was the actual result of this ad? For us to have a winning ad, that means it's an ad that received a decent amount of ad spend in the CBO. So Facebook deemed that this ad was worth receiving a certain level of ad spend, and it got some pretty good results. And then what we're end up tracking for an account internally is what we call a hit rate, which is how many total ads have we launched on this ad account versus how many of these ads became winning ads. And in this case, we have a 21% hit rate, which means roughly, give or take, 1 out of 5 ad concepts we launched on this account became a winning ad. So it received a significant amount of the ad spend of the account, and it got positive ROAS. So with that being said, that allows us to know at scale, or whenever we do scale, roughly give or take how many concepts does our creative team have to produce in order for us to find like one winning ad, which we're able to kind of keep up with creative production, once again, at scale. And those are what I call the fundamentals, or a fundamentally sound concept. A concept is one row that you see right here. A concept has a product associated to it. It has a market desire. It has a persona associated to it. So the who this concept is made for. It has a way of being positioned, a specific wording that makes it so that the ad is either positioned to a top, moth, or boff audience. So in other words, from unaware to most aware positioning, we tweak our messaging to make sure it's positioned to the right person. And that reflects itself in the copy, the headline, but obviously also the ad creative in itself. And that is, again, what I call a fundamentally sound ad creative. So that makes it very easy that once we find a winning ad, as an example, like this second row right here, well, we're able to know, all right, this ad was solution aware. This ad had a specific market desire. This ad was around the specific product. This ad was to a specific persona. Okay, great. Now this is one ad. Very hard for us to spot patterns here, but at the very least, what we can do is we can use the exact same quote unquote concept. So picking the same desire, picking the same awareness level, picking the same sophistication stage, picking the same persona, and just making new angles from there, right? Okay, this was a video. Well, let's pick the same exact concept and turn that into a static. Or this was a video, like a motion graphic ad. Well, let's turn that into a UGC ad. Or maybe let's add a new AI voiceover on top of the video and basically like change the clips, but keep the same narrative that is aligned with the same concept. So a concept in itself, be mindful of that. It's not just like a static ad or a video ad. It's not the end product. A concept are all of the pillars behind the ad creative that makes up the ad creative, because you can express, if you want, a concept into various creative types. The same concept could be a UGC, could be a static, could be a video, and it could also be tweaked into a gazillion different angles in itself, okay? And now, wrapping things up with unit economics, okay? Quite simple. The way we do it is whenever we onboarded this client in itself, we sat down with them and then we started basically asking them questions about all of their costs they had with their website. Given how this is an e-commerce digital product seller, the costs look like this. So course fees, so royalty fees that they had to pay to either course creators or other people that collaborated with them, 15% of sales. Sales fees, so platform fees, so on and so forth, about 10%. They had a fixed monthly cost of 5.2K, which exclude agency fees. Variable cost of about $2,000 monthly. Now, with that being said, only taken into account the percentage-based cost of goods at about 25%, which give or take, it gives us a break-even blended ROAS of about 1.33. Okay. which you can kind of tell that even going back to the before state, the channel-based ROAS was on the line, right? 1.38, and then the total blended ROAS 1.64. That exclude, again, the break-even point, counting agency fees in itself, which is a pretty big portion to think about, okay? So in other words, the client was either unprofitable or pretty much on the line, honestly, in the before state. But we'll get to see that in a second. Now, factoring in agency fees, fixed and variable cost, and accounting for an average of $40,000 a month ad spend, it brings our break-even blended ROAS to about 1.77x. So with the client, we established a benchmark of 2x or more with the client, once again, to help her take home some profits monthly. Well, as you saw earlier from the after state, the platform ROAS was 1.67. Blended ROAS was 2.23, considering the fact that a client breaks even at 1.77. It gives them some room here to take home some profits. And the lesson in here, going back to the how, is that you cannot scale if you don't know your numbers, okay? So the way I approach scaling, and the reason I call this a lazy way of scaling, is I deem it quite simple. It's one campaign per product line. So in this case, we basically had 5 campaigns live on the account, okay? So one campaign per product line. Very simple. Now we know when looking into the account with our naming conventions, each campaign has the product name in there. We know exactly what is working, why it's working, what product it's about. Amazing. Then from there, when it comes to the numbers, we know exactly what is the one target metric we need to hit. We're crystal clear on that target metric. There's no you said, he said, she said, I thought, you thought. None of that. It's from the get-go, getting into this partnership. Hey, this is the North Star, right? And this is why this North Star came into existence. Here's the data that backs up this North Star. And then from there, so we know what to look for when we open up the ad account, because it's simple. If it's simple for us, it's simple for the algorithm. And we know exactly what number to look into, right? This is our hard metric. This is our one metric that we know we need to hit. Well, therefore, what it really leaves us to do is to focus on the creative level, to really create good ad creatives. And we're not just winging it, copying whatever the competitors are doing or copying whatever the account has done before. No. What we do is we go back to the fundamentals. We add specific pillars behind our concepts that then makes up our creative, so that we know the day that these ads become winning ads, we can recreate the success. We know exactly all the components that came into creating this ad, and therefore we're able to create more winners and scale this account efficiently. If you made it all the way through this video and you are an e-commerce brand owner making around $50,000 a month or more, then check out the description down below and click the link to book in a call with our team at paidadvertising.com today. We'd love to become your paid ads partner on Meta, Google, or TikTok. Now, with that being said, if you are not yet at a point where it makes sense financially for you to work with an agency, or perhaps all you want is to have some consulting, some done with you help, then check out a second link in the description down below and join our ad engine mentorship, where I can help you, myself and my team, one-on-one on Slack, to help you scale your ads, set up your accounts, and make more money online, essentially, with your ad account. So with that being said, check out other videos on the channel for some more useful e-commerce marketing tips, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.